"We know that the situation seems dire, but the most important thing you can do is remain calm," a male newscaster said. "There's plenty of time and equipment." That wasn't even remotely true. More people died every day, so many that the reporters had given up on speaking with the families of the deceased. The story was always the same. A town without an MRI machine, or a person who had been convinced that they were fine because they didn't know anyone rich enough to afford a nanobot. A somber list of submitted names of the dead played at the top of every hour, until the names became so many that the list scrolled too fast to read. By summer, people had given up on trusting the news. The faces behind the desks had changed so often. The virus had spread so far and so fast that the people the channels could wrangle up to get in front of a camera weren't exactly professional, or well-informed anyway. People kept the broadcasts on in the background, but no one expected a release from the unrelenting fear because of them. One night, there was someone different on screen. A tall man in crisp army green who looked out at the public and informed them that they were now under martial law. A treatment plan was in place, and people would be gathered and bused to treatment centers, beginning immediately. He warned them not to resist. People resisted. It was too late for them to trust the authorities now. Some of the remaining went into hiding, spreading the disease further, reinfecting those that had already been treated successfully. Others, driven insane by loss and fear, threw themselves at the military personnel who came to their houses, hitting and kicking, screaming and spitting recriminations. They couldn't get to the scientists who brought this curse down on them, but they could lash out at those in front of them. They were shot where they stood. Sometimes the soldiers didn't even bother stepping over the bodies as they searched for others who might be infected. They kicked the fresh corpses to the side instead and dragged the living out to the treatment centers. More orders came over the television screen, telling people that treatment wasn't optional. The public was informed that the military didn't want to hurt them, but that they were authorized to do so. The definition of martial law now played at the top of every hour. One night, a very different video played. The news anchor said that the video came from a small town in Louisiana. A year ago, they wouldn't have shown the shaky cell phone video on the 6 o'clock broadcast. They would have blurred the gore and issued a strong warning before showing a brief clip on the 11 o'clock show. Now, however, they showed the whole thing, uncensored. In a sense, everyone had seen something like it before. A group of people in the town had captured the soldiers sent to bring them in for treatment and infected them. Then, they videoed the men coughing up blood as they died. The infection had taken them at night, and the people of the neighborhood had built a big fire for the occasion. It threw shadows and red light over the ground in a hellish tableau, the soldiers' bodies twisting as they struggled for oxygen. "We know what you were doing," a woman shrieked as she watched them die. "We know why you were here." "You want to take us off to your death camps?" the man with the camera yelled, putting himself into the center of the frame. His eyes seemed to glow red in the light, and his lips were drawn back from his teeth in a wild grin of triumph and fear. "Come and get us. See what happens to you." The military didn't leave anyone in that town alive. "It is believed that 75% of the American public have perished," a somber man said over the news one night in July. "Another 15% are estimated to be infected at this point. 90% of the population is surely lost." He didn't speak again. He only lowered his face into his hands and hunched over the desk. The camera didn't cut away until he began to cough. 2 weeks after the declaration of martial law, those who had somehow managed to escape infection heard the blasts. At first, they thought that it might be thunder, but it was too regular for that. Then, they saw their televisions go blank. They watched as their computers grew dark. When they grabbed for their cell phones, they realized that they, too, had become unresponsive. With nothing else to do, they waited to be collected. All they'd wanted was immortality. And now? They barely had a life.